Okay, sorry I haven't made a video in a long time. Been super busy, but back at it now. This is going to be replacing the tie rod ends on a 1967 to 76 Mopar A-Body. And just going to dive right into it. So, what we've got here is the outer tie rod end and the inner tie rod end, and this is going to be on the driver's side. I'll only show you this side because it's going to be the same on the other side, just a mirror image. And get started by removing the cotter pins, which I've already done. Use some needle nose pliers for that and work it around the tip of that, and then just pull it out. The nut on here is a 3/4 inch nut, and just break it loose like that. What you want to do is get the nut off of there. Should come off by hand once you break it loose. And then the other nut is up here on the other side of the frame rail. Break that loose, and then that should also come off by hand. Okay, there we go. Then what you need to do is you need to take a hammer and hit it here, and then hit it right here. Since I don't have anything to hold the camera with, I'm going to stop and do that and come back when it's all broken loose, and then we'll take this adjusting sleeve and clean it up since it's caked with grease and some dirt, probably from the last 50 years. Alright. When breaking the tie rod end loose, you want to use a big hammer like that, and just like that it'll pop the end of the tie rod out, and it should come off. Let's see, there we go, just like that. There we go, that's a little bit better. Sorry about that. Okay. And then that's loose off the center link. Come down here to the spindle and undo the nut again, using that to hold it on there, and that drops right out. With these tie rods, you have the outer end which points up and the inner end that points back, and that's oriented as looking from the driver's seat, sitting in the car looking forward. What you want to do to get these tie rod ends out is break this nut and bolt loose and this nut and bolt loose. It's going to be a 1/2 inch, and what you want to do is break it loose just enough to where you can turn this, but no more, because all you need to do is have enough slack to get the tie rod ends in and out. So use your 1/2 inch wrench and a 3/8 drive ratchet with a 1/2 inch socket on there, and break these loose. You can see that they're spinning now. Something to note that's really interesting is this is the outside end, and it's got a yellow inspection mark. This is the inside end, and it's got a white inspection mark. This car is unrestored, so that's actually from the factory. See, this thing is totally caked in grease. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew these tie rod ends and take it inside and use a nice stiff wire brush to clean this up and get all this caked on grease off of there. And we'll come back and reinstall the brand new ends and get everything tightened up, get the car ready to go for an alignment. And just like that, we're back with a cleaned up tie rod end. Now, you can see that the original finish was some kind of a phosphate, but this is going to be much nicer for whoever ends up aligning the car. Come over here. There we go, brand new tie rod ends. I'm going to go ahead and screw those in and then put it back on the car. New tie rod ends are in. That's going to be the inner one, and the outer one. The inner one is right hand thread, the outer one is left hand thread. And since this car is going to be starting from scratch, it's going to have some more work done on the steering linkage. It's actually got a bad pitman arm, so I'm going to do the pitman arm and idler arm at the same time. I'm going to redo everything, starting with an arbitrary count of 7 threads on each one, and then both sides are going to be like this. So when the car goes for an alignment, when this adjusting sleeve is turned, there's an equal amount on this side and that side sticking out, and have everything the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this on here. Sorry, doing this one-handed, but what you want to do is stick this, there we go, stick this end in here, and you want to be able to thread the nut on there. I think it's catching. There we go. Yep, catching. Alright, and then there we go. Sorry, this is all one-handed, but you want to be able to move the spindle and get that in the hole. There you go. You want to do this one first, because you can stick this up through the hole in the spindle and then swing that one over to meet the center link, instead of having to fight this one here and wiggling the top of the stud through that hole. Alright, gonna put the other castle nut on and tighten these up. Torque spec on these nuts is 40 foot-pounds, and what you want to do is just go and spin until it clicks. Alright, it's getting a little bit tighter. There we go. It's very subtle. Again. There you go. And since this is not lined up, what we want to do is take the box end of the wrench and just turn this slowly till the slot in the nut lines up with the hole through the stud. Just like that. Then we want to stick the cotter pin in there and split that. Come around on this side and very carefully grab that, bend it around, and then grab this one, bend that around, Alright, there we go. Just like that. Go ahead and torque this one up here, and then put the cotter pin in that one, and we'll come back. So now that everything is put together here, we're going to do a quick eyeball alignment, and you can see and we'll get this thing back down on the ground. The steering should be a lot nicer, but it still needs more work. Okay, now that everything's buttoned up, I'm going to go ahead and put the lug nuts back on there. And since this is a 1970 Dodge Dart, the left side of the car has left-hand studs for the lug nuts. Lucky this car has made it 50 years and none of these have been broken off by anybody doing tire replacements or brake jobs or anything like that, so I'm really thankful for it. And these are the original wheels, but these are factory style Kelsey Hayes disc brakes that I installed. The car originally came with 9-inch front drums, but it is still a manual system. I'll go ahead and I'll cover the disc brakes later on. So these are all snug. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop the car. Oops. Alright, now I drop the car and pull the jack stand out. There we go. Then you want to take your torque wrench and you want to pull back on the collar and set this to 55 foot-pounds. I'm going to have to do this. Put the camera down. Can't do this one-handed very well. Actually, there we go. Let's see. Oops, a little bit too far. There we go. 56, good enough. And again, since this is left-hand threaded, got to switch the head over and go ahead and tighten these. Very little torque on these lug nuts. Again, that's 55 foot-pounds. And the B and E bodies, I believe, possibly also the C bodies, take 65 foot-pounds for the lug nuts, which again, still isn't much. Okay, last one. Oh, got loose. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to put the center caps back on at this time because there's going to be more work done to this car, but it's now ready for a test drive.